So this is City Councilman Steve McShane with our Mayor, Joe Gunter. The mayor's been with us many years now, and he's done a terrific job. I don't know anyone that works harder. He served our country honorably as a Marine and serves on a number of regional boards, providing leadership to the Fort Ord Reuse Authority, to the local agency formation commission, the groundwater basin, Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority, and several others. The goal of today is to spend a little time with the mayor to ask him about the state of our city, how it's doing, and how we're going to get through this. And so, Mayor, if I may start with that, how are we doing as a city? What are we facing? Obviously, COVID-19 is a big impact, but maybe you could speak to where our city's at right now.
Well, because we've been so frugal, and we really have, we've been a little more. Somebody said there were a bunch of tightwads. Well, I'm so glad we are, because that has helped us put some money in reserves that we didn't have before. And, right now we're looking at about a $19 million loss. So we're going to lose everything we got reserves plus more. It may impact some construction programs that aren't funded for just roads and highways. So we're going to get through this, but it is going to be extremely tight. And I told some of the employees, they come in and asked me, and I said, look, here's what we got to think about. We've got to figure out how to balance our budget. We have no choice. We don't have overdraft. And I said, so we're not going to fill some positions. Right now, they've got 24, 25. We're just not going to fill. We're not cutting public safety yet. We hope we don't have to. So, and then we might talk about furloughs. We might talk about early retirements for some people. The very last thing we want to do is layoffs. And if we have to make this city work, we may have to. And then there are some services and programs we may not be running. We may be pushing more of our programs out to other groups like the YMCA, like the Boys and Girls Club, like the Salvation Army. There may be other groups that take over some of the things we've been doing as a city. And it's tough, because we're very proud of that. And so we're getting there. But it's going to be, if this continues for another month, this is going to be a huge challenge. I don't know what that final number will be. What scares me is it could be upwards of $25 million.
Yeah.
And most cities our size would never survive that. And I'll just use a quick example. Carmel, they have no revenue right now. Monterey, they've lost $55 million on no tourists. They don't have the people coming for conventions. Encores de Elegance brings almost $1 billion into the peninsula. It's not going to happen. California Rodeo, just what they spend in our community is about $5 billion. And they rent every hotel room. They buy all their products here. And it's a local event that gives back about $700,000 to youth programs. That's money gone. So we are facing probably the toughest times for this city, but we will get through this if we all work together. And it's very hard, because there's things all of us like. I know that you love Founders Day. I think that's a cool event. I think the Food and Wine Festival downtown's great. We've had, we didn't have the air show now. And then you start looking at El Grito. You just start looking at all the things that our fingers are in. It's going to be tough, but we'll get there. And we may not like what we have to do, but we will make it.
Yeah, people staying at home is not helping in a lot of ways, not spending money. A lot of people don't realize that our city is largely funded by property taxes and then sales tax. And
sales tax is number one. We only get about 17% of property tax.
There you go.
Which is kind of interesting. I had never thought about how little of that we get. So sales tax is a big one. I think our auto mall had been closed. I talked to them. They laid off, the My Chevrolet Group laid off 94 employees at the beginning of this.
Wow.
It's 94 people not getting money, not spending money, not taking care of their families. Our unemployment is just so high. And that's a result. They can get unemployment. Well,
yeah,
it's, that's a process. And I've talked to somebody who said, have you ever gotten unemployment? Well, I was a foolish young man. I said, well, where's the unemployment office? There is no such thing. It's all virtual.
Yeah,
you
right.
On the line to get it. And then they send you a plastic card in the mail. So I was at Wells Fargo in North Main, lying around the building twice. And I thought, wow. I know the manager, he says, oh, they all got their little plastic cards. They're trying to get cash so they can go buy groceries and take care of their families.
Yeah.
That's something we
Well,
will be dealing with.
how do you think we get past, COVID-19? Obviously, that's what we're facing. These shortfalls, not just as a city, but as a community. What do you think? What do you think the next 3 6 months
Well,
look
I think we're going to look at social distancing for a long time. I think that's one of the things we're going to look at. I think you're going to find that the governor's going to eventually order no crowds larger than 250 people at any given time. That's going to make it tough. Think about it. They had moved the rodeo till October. If he does this, it won't happen. So we're really looking at all these things. How do we get past this? Keep our medical folks taking care of them. We hope they come up with some kind of vaccine because this could come back. And
Yeah.
that's even scary. Or we could have a surge. We could have an overwhelming run of what happens now if we have another run of this and we have to lock people back down. That would be devastating to people because they're finally starting to get out. The auto dealers are open. We're starting to see some construction guys working. We have some essential work that we can get done. And I've heard, why are you still doing that? Well, we're keeping people working. And I think, and they're doing safe distancing down in their downtown construction. That's what we got to do. We got to watch. And I think you're going to see more of that for a long time to come. Because
not to mention that those funds are encumbered. Those are funds that came from
we don't have
Measure
any
Act.
choice how we spend it.
No
I
choice.
can't put it in our account and say, well, I'll use that for employees this month. And that's hard on the employees.
Same with the West Alisal.
That's
Project.
state highway funds. We have no choice.
So, I think those are.
And I think we will eventually get to the testing, and I think the testing is going to give us a clue. Where is this issue? We're doing it now. All the first responders are getting it out at Alisal High. They're doing it in Greenfield. I already had mayors from the other side of the hill say, well, how come Salinas got it? Well, we are the biggest city with the most people, and we have the most cases. But think about it. We had an outbreak at a nursing home, 14 or 16 people. We had a bunch of farm workers that were living in a very small environment. So if you take away the nursing home and probably 50 farm workers, our numbers are way low, which is a good thing.
It is.
We need just because what we don't need is we don't need to get it into the schools. We don't need to get it into any of the other nursing homes. Romney Lane, they have a bunch of these nursing homes. The day this hit, nobody gets to come visit. They're doing it all on, and that may be a saving. That may keep our numbers down. They've had no cases. I have a friend whose father's in one of those, and he said they've had no cases. Every week they announce that. So
I've got a best friend with a grandmother in a nursing home that's dying, and he's in a position where he can't visit her on her deathbed, and things are on lockdown. I think the testing thing is something good you touched on. It's good that Salinas and Greenfield will allow testing and be set up with a priority on first responders. I heard this morning there's an example of Kentucky and New Hampshire where they have the same amount of cases, but far fewer testing in Kentucky, 1/5 the amount of testing. So testing is something that's key. Have we faced more? At what point have we peaked? All of these sorts of things will allow for, ultimately a county decision to loosen up. And I know you and I have talked a lot about the county, what's worked and what's gone well, and what could really be improved upon. Do you have any
communication? And I've told them this recently. They got to communicate both with the electeds and with the community. I get more calls about, how do I get a hold of this health officer? He won't call me back. And I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure. I'm not his most favorite elected because I took him out to the woodshed and on TV. But he really has to communicate with the community because they're counting on him. And he's not just the health officer for Monterey County. He's the health officer for every city. So he's got to start talking to us. He's got to start talking to the other people in the community. You can't just live in your office and look out on Natividad Road and go, oh, it's a busy day. We need him to communicate. We need his ideas out in the community. And, we've done a couple of things that it's been pretty silent. Community center is going to be a COVID-19 positive place for those folks that have no place to go. Not the sick ones, the ones that require no medical, just 14 days. We're working on that. They have the Monterey Fairgrounds. They're doing one in Marina, and they're doing one in South County. So we're going to get these folks away from the rest of the community. Once we start doing that, we think that's going to help a lot.
Yeah. That's a key part. Once the infection is known, if they are not hazardous or in a position where they need severe, significant medical attention, then getting them set aside and in care like that is one of the best practices. Yeah, there's definitely more that could be done there. And I know, having spoken like you to a lot of businesses and a lot of people, I know I've directed a lot of attention, certainly at our county supervisor, to do more. And I think, there's a lot of people expecting more, and I think that's important.
And they do. They expect to hear from them. And they kind of live in a bubble, because somebody told me the other day, they know who I am, they know who you are, they know who a couple of our council members are. But they said, who are the Board of Supervisors? They don't see those people. They're not out in the community. They don't know them. They don't know where their offices are. They don't know how to get a hold of them. And this is pretty sad, because they should be out in this community. And, it's just something they need to do. And then, we get past all the testing. And somebody said, what happens when you reopen? How do you reopen?
Right.
And I said, this is going to be a challenge. How do we reopen?
There was a call. Well, we did a call with the Monterey County Business Council, local business leaders, and the discussion was very much about that. And there was good advice given by former Councilwoman Craig. She said, don't bury your head in the sand. Like, businesses that are going to survive are going to be nimble. They're going to be vigilant. They're going to take advantage of every possible lifeline out there. And that's what I've said to every business I've spoken to. And I've said to business, don't leave it into the hands of someone else to determine your future. You need to communicate with your local electeds, especially the county board, even if you don't hear from them. And furthermore, as we've seen with the chambers of commerces, and yesterday I was in touch with a very large faith community leader, a church congregation leader, as to, pulling together a best practices document so you can begin the dialogue for what does that rollout look like. And I can only hope that gets the attention. Certainly if you're speaking on behalf of 5 or 6 chambers of commerces or 8 or 10 large congregations of churches in the county, you can't bury your head in the sand, I would imagine. You're a business owner, Mayor. Your wife runs a dance studio. You've been personally impacted. And even in my own case, owning a landscape supply, we opened on Monday. This is our 5th day of operations. And we've had to pivot. You better believe I've got, who knows how many masks at any given time. Right?
I know. I got them in every car. I've got them in my bag. I got them in my desk. It's different.
Yeah.
And whoever thought I'd go to the bank and put a mask on before I went in. And I told somebody, I said, the last time I saw somebody going in a bank with a mask, I went in behind him and we arrested him. He was robbing the bank. So this is different times for all of us. And these aren't, and somebody said, what does the future look like? Well, I'll tell you what it's going to look like. It's going to be slow. It's going to take very conscientious efforts when we open up some of these places. I think the restaurants are going to be the bigger challenge. They're going to have to be separated for a while. And you don't need 28 guys standing at the bar drinking and carrying on. There are going to have to be some changes there. I don't think you're going to have any big concerts. The rodeo hasn't announced yet, but I would imagine we'll hear something from them in the next week or so about the big concert coming. I don't think the governor's going to allow us to have any of those kind of events until after the first of the year. And what scares me is I heard a doctor this morning say, this could come back in December.
Right.
And I'm going, oh, great, thanks. We might even have our head out of the sand by then. So we have work to do. And I just finished talking to our assembly member who said, there are no bills coming out that require a lot of expend money. Right now, the assembly's there, but they're only allowed one staff person.
Wow.
He said, they're doing they had a hearing on the Senate floor, on the assembly floor, and he goes, it's like a ghost town. You could
Wow.
walk down the halls of the state assembly right now, and there's nobody there.
Sure.
We've got one, he says, I generally have 8 people in my office, writing bills, answering phones, and it's not happening. And I didn't think about that. And he goes, and the Senate's coming back next week, and they're only allowed to bring one person. And some of them have 18 and 20 members of staff. And so he
Yeah.
says, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but it's going to be tough. And, as I look at everything that's going on, people say, what are you guys doing? We've taken on the homeless issue. This has been the hardest thing of being the mayor is I didn't know anything except homeless were there. We got to move them on. We've got the county now working on building a decent shelter. We've got a bunch of federal money coming. We're going to get these folks off the street into housing. We've done work in Chinatown. We're going to build a new sprung structure building down there. It's going to sleep 85. Eventually, I'm going to have enough housing. They're not going to be able to sleep on the streets.
That's
Once
right.
we start doing that, I'm going to be the devil in the kitchen because we're going to get them off the street. You either go there or you go elsewhere.
Yeah,
And
we've
the
talked
railroad
about
tracks are, and you know about the railroad tracks. I don't need to tell you about that. This is another area that we don't have any real control over because it doesn't belong to us. I can't just walk out on the railroad tracks and say, "Get off my railroad tracks." That's done by Union Pacific, so we're kind of in a pickle with that one.
Yeah, and the Federal Railroad Administration. In the last week, there's been 2 meetings, and I know you've been tuned into both. The railroad right-of-way homelessness issue with an estimated 240 encampments on or near the railroad tracks at danger to themselves and, with other numerous dangers, indirect and direct food safety concerns with the dozen or more processing and vegetable handling facilities along that corridor, not to mention Clay Street with the tragic murder and the stabbing, the meeting that took place a couple of days ago, a lot of emphasis on homelessness. But as I think I've picked up from our public safety professionals, calls for service and crime, especially violent crime, are down by 1/3 or more. Obviously, hotspots still exist, but that sort of change in how we do business is I think, very interesting. For the most part, from what I gather, homeless are staying put. Yesterday, day before and yesterday, 2 different meetings, one for Community Human Services and the other one for the Clay Street Safety. It was very interesting to learn that, what COVID-19 has done is it's stabilized and driven a lot of homeless into a pipeline that leads to reemployment, housing and or other services. So there is a bit of a blessing there, but as we know, Mayor, there's a lot of homeless that just would choose not to access service, would run the other way.
Well, they don't want it, and we've got to learn to live with that, and how we deal with them is a totally different group of folks. And, we've talked about homeless, and then think about agriculture in the midst of all this pandemic stuff. How are they doing? Their businesses are all down. I've talked to several of them who said, we're plowing stuff under. First of all, we didn't have workers. Second of all, we have no market. It doesn't do me any good to do a box of salad, a lettuce for $5, and it cost me 10 to do it. He says, by not processing it, plowed under, I'm saving money on the box and labor.
As this hit, people reached for potatoes and canned beans and canned vegetables and not salads. That's coming back. But what a lot of people don't realize is when you have a growing operation, it's usually food service or retail. You can't change the orientation of the beds and the equipment that harvests. So it's that food service. Reports I've heard is down by 50%. Retail's up by anywhere from 25 to 30%. But a lot of emphasis on food service. It was probably 10 years ago now that food service became the dominant channel for consumption of fresh vegetables. So you're right. That's a challenge and one that we'll have to overcome.
We'll have to look at that, and we have to keep an eye on them, because one thing about the agriculture industry, and we all kind of forget it, because I always have people say, "Oh, those rich people, we should charge them $0.25 a box," and I always laugh when I hear that. But those alleged rich people, when we have an event, when we have somebody that we really need to give help to, all I got to do is call one of them and get out of their way. That's a group of people that will come out and help anybody, anywhere, any hour of the day or night. I had a family that their house burned up, and we did. Red Cross was going to be a while. They're going to try to put 11 people into a hotel. And I called one of our people, and I was asked not to give his name, and I said, look, his wife works for you guys. And I said, I need some help. And he goes, where are you? He says, just stay there. You'll hear back from me. Pretty soon, the guy rolls up in a truck, gets out, goes, talks to the family, looks at me, and he says, we got this.
Wow.
Learn later, they got him a house, got him cash, got him food, took care of the family, and ended up hiring the husband down the road too. But you know what? And you know what? They didn't want any credit. They didn't want anybody to know what they had done. And I thought, so every time I hear somebody badmouth produce companies, I go, you only knew.
Yeah.
How many other people do I have I can call that can do that?
No, well said, Mayor. There's a lot of emphasis on the good in ag, and especially the farm workers. I think in today's paper, again, for the third time, there's been a tribute, donated food, various accolades, and not to mention the masks that became available and additional PPE.
And I think people are starting to appreciate them more. They don't. Well, people here. Say, you know what a farm worker is? They don't know. It's just some Mexican from Mexico. I even cut our lettuce and go back home. They don't know that these are real people that give back to this building what they think they're supposed to. Stuff is the community. So we take CVS figured it out. So people better start thinking. Those are people that come here. We had them in, I think, 17 hotels last year. People said, oh my God, they're going to be crime ridden. They're going to be this. So I checked. We had one call at one hotel, and they had to call an ambulance and a fire truck and a policeman. And I said, oh God, what happened? They said, guy had broke his ankle 2 days earlier. He didn't want to be shipped back to Mexico. He just wanted to work, so he put duct tape on it to hold it together. And he worked out in the fields with a broken ankle for a day and a half. And I said, so what happened to the guy? Oh, they're keeping him. They got him in the hospital, put a cast on it, and they got him sitting on the truck doing something. But they said, those are the kind of people we need working in the agriculture industry. And I never thought about the guy had a family to support and didn't want to be shipped home with no money.
Sure. Well, what do you think, and I don't know, what can you say about some of the concerns about government workers coming back to work and some of the preparation and safety concern?
Well, it was a big safety concern, and I know that some of them were very upset, but the governor, they were ordered out, and they were considered non-essential at the time, even though I questioned that, and the city manager made some nuts. I said, if they're not essential, why do we even have employees? And he kind of laughed and he says, that's so cool. I said, so we sent them home, paid time off, they built vacation, but while they were gone, we got all the equipment that we needed. We got all the masks, we got all the gloves, we got all the cleaning materials. We were able to put together all the equipment we needed so they'd be safe when they returned. We brought them back, and a lot of them came back. They were actually offered another 2 weeks by the federal government. Most of them came back and immediately went to work and are accomplishing a lot. We've got all of our youth programs at the library. Now we're on the internet. One of those people that came back put that up, and it's working on getting programs where kids can go online. So there's a lot of good going on with the folks that came back. So we made sure they were safe. Most of them aren't dealing with the public. They're in locked offices. All of our librarians are out working at the El Gavilan Library. They're fluffing that thing. They are so ready to be open there and at the other libraries they've been in. They're cleaning, they're sanitizing, and they're looking at how do we make them safer for the future. They're
Yeah,
already
when
ahead of
we
the game.
open
They
that.
don't need my advice on that. They're already looking at, we need a hand washing station. Or we need one of those things that they should. And I thought, wow, they're getting it. They know what they got to do because they said, if nothing else, maybe it'll prevent people from catching the flu. They're pretty much on this stuff. And we haven't had any of them get sick. A bunch of them are getting tested. We've had no issues with any employee. We had somebody at the police department brought it from somewhere else. That person's been cured, and we had one fireman, and he's been tested, and he should be coming back to work too. Other than that, we've been pretty blessed.
Yeah. Maybe last question, because I want to be sensitive to your time. What else is the city going to work on? What do you see on our agenda, on our docket, moving forward? Is it going to be all COVID all the time?
No, I think we got to get back to business. I think we got to start providing some of our programs. We really do need and to work with the health officer. Think about it. We have no little leagues going on in this city. We have over 1,000 kids that play Little League that are sitting at home. We got Pop Warner coming. We've got high school sports. We've got every kid that's been sitting at home. I think one of the good things is we're putting in dark fiber up East Alisal so we can start getting good internet to the Alisal and to other areas. Because I've been asked, why doesn't the city isn't your internet provider? But I think we have a potential here to improve the internet for this community, the connectability. And I think you're going to see more of that. And I think you're going to see more classes on working with our youth on how they work with this, the new world of the internet. If you had told me 7 years ago that I was going to be conducting all my meetings talking to my iPad, I'd have still been laughing at you. But day before yesterday, I had 7 hours of Zoom meetings, all different times. And I was like, when I got done, somebody said, I sent you a message. I said, that's nice. I'm not looking at that iPad anymore today. But this community is resilient. Everybody talks about their community being strong. No, we're resilient. We get through tough times. We had earthquakes that were devastating here. Other cities didn't bounce back. This city does. We have a great workforce that sometimes gets forgotten because if you stand on Highway 68 when the world's open and look at the faces going to Monterey to work every day and coming back, that's our people. That's those people that make every golf course. They make every friggin' hotel. I was in a restaurant in Monte Carmel with the Mayor's Association. The waiter said he needed to talk to me. He took me in the kitchen. He goes, these are all your constituents. 7 of the people working in that kitchen were from Salinas. And I thought, wow. And the owner committee said, they're the best workers because they're from Salinas. So I think we're going to bounce back from this. And what do we tell our residents? I think they need to be super cautious when we open up. We all need to be a little more cautious than we've ever been because I don't know how quick this is all going to go away, but we surely don't need a senior citizen to get sick. And for our young people, don't go out and go crazy when we start opening things up because grandma and grandpa don't need this.
Yeah.
And that's scary. If you go give this to your dad, I don't want to be around when your family comes to hunt for you because I'm sure you worry about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think
your young children.
Yeah.
So,
well, I want to thank you for your time today. We've been visiting with Salinas Mayor Joe Gunter on COVID-19 and other issues facing Salinas. This has been a great visit, Mayor, and I just want to thank you for your time. I don't know anybody that works harder in the capacity of mayor. You're doing.
You got to get to work today and generate some revenue for this city. I'm going to call your wife and make sure you're earning some money. She can't be
the will come off, and I'll be back at work, rolled up sleeves, ready to go. So thanks. All right.
Bye bye.